Hey guys, welcome back to Z World News, here with an update on the Israeli conflict. Today's article is from the New York Post, April 25th, 2021. The article reads, Jerusalem tensions triggers Gaza-Israel fire exchange as Netanyahu asks for calm. Israeli police say 44 people were arrested and 20 officers were wounded in a night of chaos in Jerusalem, where security forces separately clashed with Palestinians angry about Ramadan restrictions and Jewish extremists who held an anti-Arab march nearby. Rocket fire from the Gaza Strip towards Israel resumed Saturday evening after a day-long pause despite calls for calm from the United Nations and threats by Israeli leaders to retaliate fiercely. Tensions in Jerusalem as Palestinians clashed with Israeli police and far-right Jewish groups prompted the heaviest cross-border violence in months between Israel and Gaza. Militants fired a rocket towards Sderot town in southern Israel, and it was intercepted by air defenses, the military said. Early Saturday, militants in the Gaza Strip fired some 36 rockets into Israel, while the Israeli military struck back at targets operated by the ruling Hamas group. The barrage of rockets fire came as hundreds of Palestinians clashed with Israeli police in East Jerusalem. The clashes, in which at least 4 police and 6 protesters were injured, have become a nightly occurrence throughout the Muslim holy month of Ramadan and show no signs of stopping. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he held talks with top security officials about Gaza and Jerusalem. He said he instructed officials to be ready for every scenario in Gaza. In Jerusalem, he said Israel would guarantee freedom of worship for everyone, and he appealed for calm. We ask now for people to obey the law, and I call for a calming of tempers on all sides. The UN envoy to the region, Tor Wennesland, condemned the violence and said the United Nations was working with all sides to restore calm. The provocative acts across Jerusalem must cease. The indiscriminate launching of rockets towards Israeli population centers violates international law and must stop immediately, he said. I reiterate my call upon all sides to exercise maximum restraint and avoid further escalation, particularly during the holy month of Ramadan and this politically charged time for all. Meanwhile, Israeli Chief of Staff Lieutenant Aviv Kochavi is weighing a series of steps for possible responses and preparations if the situation continues to escalate, the military said in a statement. He also postponed a trip to the United States that was scheduled for Sunday. The U.S. also appealed for calm, while neighboring Jordan, which serves as the custodian for Jerusalem's Muslim holy sites, condemned Israel's actions. Jerusalem, home to holy sites sacred to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, has long been a flashpoint to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In 2014, similar tensions erupted within a 50-day war between Israel and Gaza's ruling Hamas militant group. The Israeli military said a total of 36 rockets were fired into Israel throughout the night. It said 6 rockets were intercepted, while most of the others landed in open areas. There were no reports of injuries or serious damage, but the incoming rocket fire set off air raid sirens throughout southern Israel. In response, the army said fighter jets and helicopters struck a number of Hamas targets in Gaza, including an underground facility and rocket launchers. Hamas did not claim responsibility for the rocket fire, but Israel considers the group responsible for all fire emanating from the territory. The military imposed limits on outdoor gatherings in southern Israel early Saturday, but lifted the restrictions several hours later and allowed people to resume their normal routines. Israel and Hamas, an Islamic group sworn to Israel's destruction, are bitter enemies that have fought 3 wars and numerous skirmishes since Hamas seized control of Gaza in 2007. Although neither side appears to have an interest in escalating tensions, Hamas sees itself as a defender of Jerusalem and may feel obligated to act, or at least tacitly encourage rocket attacks by other groups ahead of upcoming Palestinian parliamentary elections. Hamas armed wing has warned Israel not to test its patience. At dawn, hundreds of people in Gaza challenged nightly curfews imposed by Hamas to curb the coronavirus outbreak and took to the streets in an act of solidarity with fellow Palestinians in Jerusalem, burning tires. The Palestinians want East Jerusalem to be the capital of their future state. Its fate has been one of the most divisive issues in the peace process, which ground to a halt more than a decade ago. Palestinians have clashed with Israeli police on a nightly basis since the start of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan nearly 2 weeks ago. The tensions began when police placed barricades outside the old city's Damascus Gate, where Muslims traditionally gather to enjoy the evening after the daytime fast. The clashes intensified Thursday evening when hundreds of Palestinians hurled stones and bottles at police, who fired a water cannon and stun grenades to disperse them. Dozens of Palestinians were wounded in the melee. At the same time, a far-right Jewish group known as Lahava led a march of hundreds of protesters chanting "Arabs get out" toward the Damascus Gate. The group, led by the disciple of the late racist Rabbi Meir Kahane, is allied with elements of a far-right party elected to Israel's parliament last month. The show of force came in response to videos circulating on TikTok showing Palestinians slapping religious Jews at random. Other videos made in response to them appear to show Jews assaulting Arabs. After keeping them a few hundred yards away from Damascus Gate, police used water cannons, stun grenades, and mounted police to push far-right protesters back towards mostly Jewish West Jerusalem. In all, police said 44 people were arrested and 20 officers were injured. Okay, so that's the most up-to-date information. The conflict in Israel. I'll keep you posted with anything new coming out. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you like our content, and I'll see you in the next episode.